Hello. For my action research study, I wanted to look more at the ways in which I can enhance the learning and instructional process of mathematics. My action research question was, can or will the use of technological or concrete math manipulatives help to better students academically in the subject of math, and whether or not the use of manipulatives can help to better the teaching and embodiment of math concepts for students? As a teacher, my core values reflect my pedagogical approach to education, where I, as the educator, am at the center of the ways in which I can take subject matter and diversify the learning process for my students to reflect their needs and skills. One of my core values as an educator was to focus in on student learning, valuing that each member of my classroom comes with various learning styles that work for them. I need to ensure that I am flexible and adaptive to my students as learners and integrate instructional strategies and manipulatives to better assist them in their learning journey. More commonly today, students who participate in learning experiences where their physical manipulation of objects and their body is at the center of the concepts in math become more concretely learned. I feel as though we have moved from more of a visual form of learning to one where the tactile and kinesthetic experience dominates the opportunity for student success. As a teacher, it is my responsibility to ensure that I am well informed and equipped to handle these learning experiences and facilitate them to ensure that all students are successful in mathematics. Secondly, I believe that as an educator in the academic world, it is my duty and responsibility to enhance my professional practice in a way that not only benefits me, but more my students. I need to advance and structure my pedagogical knowledge in a way that is modern and up to date with the generation of my students. I believe that this more modern and up-to-date practice resides in the use of mathematical manipulatives and the use of technology to enhance math learning. Lastly, it is essential that the manipulatives and the instructional strategies that I implement help student learning. It is our job as educators to teach students that although there are many ways to solve mathematical tasks and problems, the efficient route is always the best route. As teacher candidates, I believe that it is our fundamental goal to look at the ways that we can enhance our own teaching pedagogy to incorporate new and creative practices and lessons that look to improve this mathematical decline. As educators, I believe that it is our responsibility to adapt to the changing world that is contextually specific to students today. As technology is advancing, students are spending more time manipulating buttons and images on a screen in order to make sense of written and visual forms of communication. I believe that providing the same context with hands-on physical manipulation of objects and the physical body during the math lesson, students will be more equipped to apply their own knowledge, investigate new and unfamiliar tasks, and apply themselves more readily. Questions that I began to consider were, how can the use of physical manipulatives enhance the learning of mathematics? Do the use of manipulatives and their objects, or the manipulation of the physical body, help to teach the strands related to math? Can manipulatives be used across all strands within math? What manipulatives or contextual variables need to be available or in place for students to successfully learn math? What role do parents, board members, administration members, or other teachers play in ensuring that these strategies and ways to utilize various math manipulatives are scaffolded for students? How can we ensure that manipulatives in math are modern, unique, relevant, and accessible for all schools and grades? Does the age of various manipulatives matter in the teaching of mathematics? As documented on dictionary.com, the following words are defined. Manipulatives are relating to the manipulation of the object or a part of a body. Students exercising control or reinforcing the movement of an object or a body part. Movement, the activities of someone during a particular period of time, a general activity, or a bustle of a group of people working independently or together to advance their academic needs of knowledge. Physical is relating to things perceived through the sense as opposed to the mind, tangible or concrete. Achievement is defined as a thing that occurs or is earned based on a thing that is done successfully with effort or skill. Scaffold or scaffolding is a teaching approach that moves students progressively towards stronger understanding, skill acquisition, and learning independence. Pedagogy is the method and practice of teaching, especially as an academic subject. I began my third practicum experience in a grade 5-6 classroom where we were labeled as a paper-free room. As a learning experience, I had to ensure that I enhanced my pedagogy to incorporate more technology and hands-on experiences into my practice to adapt more as an educator and to ensure an inclusive practice. It was essential that I began to look at each of my resources that I had collected for my statement of action research and generate those questions that were deemed essential for answering. As stated in the article investigating pre-service mathematics teachers' manipulative design processes, the use of manipulatives allows students to visualize and improve their mathematical learning by internalizing the representation of various mathematical ideas while reinforcing math concepts and allowing them to work through problems and tasks efficiently and effectively. This article lends itself to my proposal that by removing the constraints of a paper and pencil tasks, children can begin to integrate and understand the abstract world of math through the use of manipulatives in the context of real-life movement or visualization. Kevin Larkin, author of Mathematics Education and Manipulatives, contributes to the positive correlation of student mathematical success and object or physical manipulation by comparing and contrasting manipulation of concrete and technology-based objects. Due to the advancements of tech, students may enter a classroom rich in tech adaptive abilities, being able to use and manipulate these tech based on their exposure inside and outside the academic environment. For me, it is essential that I not only prove or reason with the idea that math manipulatives enhance student learning, but that I am able to conclude on whether concrete objects or technology is better in certain circumstances. As I was beginning to explore my research question in my practicum classroom and attempt to incorporate old and new aged manipulatives with several math tasks, I realized that sometimes the older the better. As demonstrated in the book Visible Learning for Mathematics, manipulatives like Cuisenaire rods, linking cubes, algebra tiles, and tangrams have proven to help students build links between these objects, the symbol, and the mathematical idea that they may represent, building a bridge between surface to deeper reasoning. Not only does this book confirm that age is just a number when it comes to manipulatives and math, but it also allows me to see that manipulatives found in everyday use can be used effectively. The book Math on the Move sheds light on how manipulatives are not just deemed by the physical manipulation of objects, but the use of the human body and the exploration of its parts. As stated, there can be more math done from dancing by children, allowing them to musically, mathematically, and physically move. The author demonstrates an essential skill that all 21st century teachers must embrace, and that is interdisciplinary teaching, allowing students to not learn in stagnant stages titled by their disciplines, but rather allow a constant flow of learning to occur. It is stated that students begin to harness their whole selves in learning, develop, communicate, and reason about mathematical ideas verbally and non-verbally. By allowing students to interact with the world in a whole body experience, they get the chance to make, do, investigate, converse, wonder, build, express, and reflect in mathematical interactions with their environment. For my research plan, I decided to use photos, samples of student work, and anecdotal notes. I plan to use photographs to help keep track of my students' work that could potentially go missing or get misplaced. I hope to use these to help demonstrate student growth or changes that students may emphasize throughout our units. I want to work with my students to code their thinking and emphasize visually in their strategies where they may need some assistance. I plan to use anecdotal notes to document observations or conversations within the classroom learning environment. I hope to learn with my associate teacher and become more aware of the various mathematical strategies that are occurring within the classroom. Allowing me to document these conversations and observations as students work through these tasks will enhance my understanding of the various strengths and weaknesses students are demonstrating while learning certain math concepts. I plan to use the samples of my students' work to help me develop the product section of my triangulation of data. I hope to use these samples, whether written or photographed, to observe and question students' learning and thinking. The collections of samples of students' work allow me to have a starting point to see where students are and to keep track of their growth, progress, or setbacks. For me, it is essential that I take the time to generate product of their thinking, seeing what product comes from the use of which type of manipulative, using a compare and contrast method to compare samples of work done with versus without manipulatives. Anecdotal notes provide me with a way to document student observation using manipulatives, seeing and how they use them, and if they use them, and if they are using them in a successful or struggling way. This allows me to document any conversations I have with students regarding what they are doing while using these manipulatives, their opinion on them. I can also document anecdotally any notes or things I notice pertaining to the photos or the samples of student works that are collected. The use of photos allows me to physically document the manipulatives that we are using and the learning journey of my students. I plan to use photos as a way to organize student work and allow myself to take pictures of their work and question students on what is happening in each of the photos. Photos also allow me to capture any observations which may help to clarify any of my anecdotal notes on certain tasks. In the classroom environment, I will actively use scheduled math time and lessons to help facilitate my data research. With the help of my associate teacher, I plan to use this time effectively to implement various concrete or technological math manipulatives. As my students are in the center of my research, my associate and I will openly communicate with one another as we document anecdotally student observations and conversations. Together, we will photograph the implementation of these manipulatives, the interaction students have with one another or these manipulatives, and the finished product. It is essential that administration members and parents are debriefed on what we are doing, the reason why we are conducting this research, and the results along the way. From the months of January to June, I plan to implement my action research study. Over the course of these 6 months, I plan to co-create anecdotal criteria with my associate teacher that we will follow together to ensure that we are documenting in a more uniform fashion. After creating this, we will take time during each task to circulate the room and write down any conversations and observations we find pivotal to ensuring that we are seeing who benefits from certain manipulatives and who struggles or fails to use them. These anecdotal notes will allow us to see who may need some more scaffolding on how to use specific manipulatives and who is benefiting. I also plan to take pictures of my students and begin an index package documenting each photograph, working, presenting, and thinking through the tasks. These pictures will be dated, and then the name on the back will be written. By taking these pictures, I will be allowing myself to focus in on as many students within the classroom that I could potentially miss when anecdotally documenting. I will be questioning my students one-on-one, asking them what is occurring in each photo. I will use this time to also collect student samples of work and create a mathematical photo that will allow me to insert their work each and every day, regardless of completion or not. I feel as though because math is at the forefront right now in the educational world, considering math scores are down in Ontario, that many members of the educational community may be interested in my research. Through my action research, I will be able to apply my knowledge as a 21st century teacher and produce knowledge that could be integral to the mathematical community between school boards and across the province. I am choosing an action research topic that is modern and essential of everyday learning. Prior to beginning my research journey, I plan to have students and their parents fill out a consent form indicating that during our math lessons and time, we'll be working with new and exciting hands-on or technological concrete math manipulatives. During the use of these manipulatives, students will be collected and picture documented. I would like parents and students to be aware and informed of that the pictures and work collected are documented and are for the use of my associate and myself. It is essential that I still maintain an open line of communication with parents and administration members to help them keep them informed of my new instructional practice that I am attempting to implement and try. Working with my associate teacher, I hope to maintain a private line of communication between her and I, using a locked filing cabinet to conceal files or samples of student work, photographs of students, and using a password-protected document or file that we can share via online Google Docs to harbor all of our generated notes and documents on student mathematical learning. Overall, I believe that this action research study would support my knowledge of teaching by helping to enhance my pedagogical instructional approach to learning. Ultimately, by designing and implementing this research study, I would be allowing myself to open up to the idea that learning can be constructed solely as a manipulative practice. This approach allows me to see how manipulatives encourage teachers to be readily adaptive and prepared to learning in a way that is interactive and embodying. I feel as though, having conducted this research study, I have learned that allowing my students to embrace mathematical concepts in a physical and concrete way, they are conceptualizing mathematics in a way that is specific to their own learning needs and styles. Thank you.